Welcome back. I'm Scott Groves. The special counsel Robert Hur, who headed the investigation into President Biden's handling of classified documents, stepped into the middle of a partisan storm today. Also tonight, transcripts made public of Hur's interview with the president are offering new insight into the investigation. Gabe Gutierrez has a report.
Tonight, the firestorm over President Biden's handling of classified documents is reigniting.
You exonerated him.
I did not exonerate him,
Mr. Hur, it's my time.
Special counsel Robert Hur, a former Trump-appointed U.S. attorney, testifying about his report, recommending no charges.
We identified evidence that the president willfully retained classified materials after the end of his vice presidency. We did not, however, identify evidence that rose to the level of proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
Hur defended, including damaging details about President Biden's mental acuity, including that the 81-year-old president had diminished faculties and would present himself to a jury as an elderly man with a poor memory.
I did not sanitize my explanation, nor did I disparage the president unfairly.
But Hur was grilled by both Republicans.
Joe Biden broke the law. But because he's a forgetful old man who would appear sympathetic to a jury, Mr. Hur chose not to bring charges.
And Democrats.
You chose a general pejorative reference to the president. You understood when you made that decision, didn't you, Mr. Hur, that you would ignite a political firestorm with that language, didn't you?
Congressman, politics played no part whatsoever in my investigative steps.
Hur wrote President Biden could not remember when he was vice president, or even the year his son Beau died. The president said he was outraged. Hur asked him about his son.
Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself, wasn't any of their damn business.
But the transcript of Hur's interview, released today, confirmed it was the president himself who brought up his son's death, as NBC News previously reported. The president asked, what month did Beau die? Oh God, May 30th. And others respond, 2015. The president then asks, was it 2015 he had died?
Why did the president say that it was Robert Hur who brought up his son's death when the transcript shows otherwise?
Well, the transcript clearly shows that the president was being asked by the special counsel about the book that he wrote about his son's unfortunate and untimely passing.
Classified documents were found in President Biden's old offices, his Delaware home, and his garage. All were returned. Democrats today comparing the case to former President Trump, who's pleaded not guilty to criminal charges for allegedly mishandling classified documents. Hur writing, while Mr. Trump was given multiple chances to return the documents, he allegedly did the opposite and enlisted others to destroy evidence.
The desperate quest to invent an issue is a distraction from the 91 federal and state federal charges that Donald Trump faces now.
According to Hur's report, President Biden shared classified material with his ghostwriter, though the president disputes that. Republicans say his motives included an $8 million book advance.
It wasn't just $8 million, it was also his ego. Pride and money is why he knowingly violated the rules. You agree with that, Mr. Hur?
That language, and it does appear in the report, and we did identify evidence supporting those assessments.